Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. I'm Stephanie Fisher. I'm a licensed counselor here in the state of Michigan, and I'm owner and operator of In Progress Counseling. We'll do our last two pieces around kind of this series on transitions this week. So we'll have parts 9 and 10. Part 9 here is going to try to invite in a perspective around as transitions are happening, and because we can be fairly uncertain and uncomfortable and maybe really overwhelmed and really scared during transitions, there's this process that happens called foreclosure when we can't really deal with the tension of uncertainty, and so we pick whatever the first option is that comes our way. And it makes a lot of sense that, waiting is hard, patience is hard, sitting in the tension of will it work out or won't it work out. That's actually quite common to want to expedite the process. But to foreclose on something means that perhaps I'm selecting something that's good because I didn't have the patience or the capacity to try to wait for better or best. Now, it doesn't mean things aren't going to work out. It just means that we can foreclose too quickly on things and call it our new reality. Or we can have a next step, happen and then assume, well, that's going to be as good as it gets. And so we settle into something prematurely, or we foreclose on something too quickly. And so let's talk a little bit about kind of processes. And a lot of times with clients, we work on creating discernment processes where we cast a little bit of a wide net, and then we give ourselves some timelines and some best practices to try to buy us some kind of waiting and patience in the process. And so an example I'll use: when I knew that I was going to go back to school for my counselor ed and supervision degree, that's a very process-driven kind of waiting game. And so you're not really guaranteed to get into any program at the doctoral level. And so you really have to cast a wide net. So I think there were, I went through a kind of elimination process where I ended up, what do I want? What do I not want? What's the type of dynamic, like residential or hybrid? What are the entry qualifications? And I ended up with a list of 6 different programs that really met all the criteria that I was looking for. So I had to fill out 6 different applications. There is a time commitment there, and there is a financial commitment there, because each one of them had their own enrollment processes that I had to go through. Now, of the 6, only 2 actually got back to me and gave me permissions for an interview. And of the 2, I think I had one interview in November and the second interview in January. So I still had to practice a lot of patience as I had interview number 1. My gut reaction was, number 1, I wasn't a good fit for them, so they didn't want me. And also I felt like, oof, I don't think this is a good fit for me. I don't think I want them. And so now there's this 6 or 7 week waiting process until I can have that second interview. And I'll be honest, the entire time I'm waiting to hear back from 6 schools, and I've only heard back from 2 schools. And I have these, months of waiting for this second interview. By times I get to that second interview, it's the only option left as I understand it. So at that point, it's like, okay, I think I'm going all in on this particular option. It also happened to be a goodness of fit. And so as I'm having the interview and I'm going through the intake process, there's something that feels really good and really right about it. But that's on the other side of looking at dozens of options, paring it down to 6, going through the enrollment processes for each of those 6, going to 2 interviews, feeling fairly discouraged. I'm not hearing back from 4 schools. I'm not having a goodness of fit with the first interview. So now there's this second interview. And that entire process is quite taxing, but staying in the grind is how I actually got into the program. A lot of times we can get really frustrated that there's processes to get from point A where we're at to point B where we want to go, and casting a wide net and then going through, patiently going through next steps and protocols and processes and, interviews. It really is part of how I was able to get from this concept of going to school to the implementation of going to school. And that was all a full calendar year before I was even able to start in the program. Now I can, reflect on it. We're at this point almost 4 years later and say, well, it was totally worth it. But in real time, it's hard to remind ourselves that, oh, there is a commitment to processes here. And it's really easy to tap out prematurely. It's really easy to go with that first thing that works out and not give ourselves permission to sit in the tension. There's a lot of ways to sit in the tension, including bringing in a helper, processing it through with friends, reminding yourself of long-term goals, working on emotional regulation and working on discernment practices, taking care of daily habits and hygiene. There's a lot of things that help us in the tension. But if we're not willing to endure the tension, we can foreclose on things too quickly, and we can end up kind of in default positions in our life without realizing it, because a lot of things actually take time to unfold over time. So the invitation today is, if there's a process in front of you, look at what can you do to successfully wait as things work themselves out over time. As long as you're showing up and doing your committed effort, we assume that if you're going about it in an intentional and in a really well-structured way, it increases the opportunity that things actually work out for us. Prematurely tapping out, we end up with default patterns happening. We end up with default, what am I trying to say? Default, I don't want to say positions, but it doesn't typically get us the payoffs that we want necessarily. So today's about good processes and waiting as those processes unfold.